morning, everyone. Happy New Year. Welcome to Peninsula Hope Church this morning. Thanks for joining us. I'm going to open with some prayer. So let's pray together before we worship. Father, I just thank you for this morning, for being able to gather together as a church and a congregation. Would you be with us as we worship you, as we seek to draw closer to you and to meet you this morning? Would you just teach us more about yourself, just as we start this new year, 2022? Just be with us and remind us that you've been walking with us this whole time, and just stand beside us as we move forward. Father, just be with us today. Speak through Eric as he delivers your message, and would you hear and receive our praises this morning? Amen. Where you go, I'll go. Where you stay, I'll stay. When you move, I'll move. I will follow. Oh, all your ways are good. All your ways are sure. I will trust in you alone, higher than my sight, high above my life. Oh, I will live in you alone. Where you go, I'll go. Where you stay, I'll stay. When you move, I'll move. I will follow you. Who you love, I'll love. How you serve, I'll serve. If there's a life I lose, I will follow you. Yeah, I will follow you. Yeah. Light unto the world, light unto my life. Oh, I will live for you alone. You're the one I seek, knowing I will find all I need in you alone, in you alone. Where you go, I'll go. Where you stay, I'll stay. When you move, I move. I will follow you. Who you love, I'll love. How you serve, I'll serve. If there's a life I lose, I will follow you. Yeah, I will follow you. Yeah. Oh, in you there's life everlasting. In you there's freedom for my soul. In you there's joy, unending joy. And I will follow. Oh, in you there's life everlasting. In you there's freedom for my soul. In you there's joy, unending joy. And I will follow. Where you go, I'll go. Where you stay, I'll stay. When you move, I'll move. I will follow you. Who you love, I'll love. How you serve, I'll serve. If it's life I lose, I will follow you. Yeah, I will follow you. Yeah, oh, I will follow you. Yeah, I will follow you. Yeah. to breathe the air of heaven, where pain is gone and mercy fills the streets, to look upon the one who bled to save me and walk with him for all eternity. Oh, there will be a day when all will bow before him. There will be a day when death will be no more, standing face to face with he who died and rose again. Holy, holy is the Lord. And every prayer we prayed in desperation, the songs of faith we sang through doubt and fear. Oh, in the end, we'll see that it was worth it when he returns to wipe away our tears. Oh, there will be a day when all will bow before him. There will be a day when death will be no more, standing face to face with he who died and rose again. Holy, holy is the Lord. And on that day we join the resurrection and stand beside the heroes of the faith. Oh, with one voice, 1,000 generations sing, worthy is the Lamb who was slain. And on that day we join the resurrection and stand beside the heroes of the faith. Oh, with one voice, 1,000 generations sing, worthy is the Lamb who was slain. Forever he shall reign. So let it be today, we shout the hymn of heaven with angels and the saints. We raise a mighty roar, glory to our God who gave us life beyond the grave. Holy, holy is the Lord. So let it be today, we shout the hymn of heaven with angels and the saints. We raise a mighty roar, glory to our God who gave us life beyond the grave. Holy, holy is the Lord. Holy, holy is the Lord. Holy, holy is the Lord. Oh, come out of sadness from wherever you've been. Come broken-hearted, let a rescue begin. Oh, come find your mercy. Oh, sinner, come kneel 'cause earth has no sorrow that heaven can't heal. 'Cause earth has no sorrow that heaven can't heal. So lay down your burdens, lay down your shame. Oh, all who are broken, lift up your face. Oh, wanderer, come home, you're not too far. So lay down your hurt, lay down your heart, come as you are. There's hope for the hopeless and all those who've strayed. Come sit at the table, come taste the grace. There's rest for the weary, rest that endures. 'Cause earth has no sorrow that heaven can't cure. So lay down your burdens, lay down your shame. Oh, all who are broken, lift up your face. Oh, wanderer, come home, you're not too far. So lay down your hurt, lay down your heart, come as you are, come as you are, fall in his arms. Oh, come as you are. There's joy for the morning, oh sinner, be still. 'Cause earth has no sorrow that heaven can't heal. Yeah, earth has no sorrow that heaven can't heal. So lay down your burdens, lay down your shame. Oh, all who are broken, lift up your face. Wanderer, come home, you're not too far. So lay down your hurt, lay down your heart, come as you are. Oh, 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 come as you are. Come as you are. Father, we come before you this morning just as we are. Would you speak to us through Eric as he delivers your message? Would you touch our hearts and draw us closer to you and just let us hear your words for us. Draw close to us as we draw near to you this morning. Amen.
Hi, everyone. Can everybody hear me? In the chat, if you'd just say yes, if you can hear me. Otherwise, I'm just going to keep going. Great. Thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Eric Akutagawa. And if the last name sounds familiar, perhaps you know my mother, Chizuko, who's been a prominent figure on the Nichigo side for many years. I grew up at Peninsula Church, well, back when it was just Peninsula Free Methodist Church, back in the 70s and 80s. Have many memories. And I guess this is a good opportunity as any to say thank you to the many people who came through Peninsula Church and were part of my spiritual journey. So I remember many youth group meetings or children's ministry meetings, Hume Lake, Broom Ball, all these events culminating into where I am now. Would not be here without those experiences. So thank you to many of you, too many names to mention, some of which are now up in heaven, rejoicing with the Lord. So thank you to all of you. And here I am, going full circle. So I'm here to introduce you to Baja Missions. And let me share my screen. There we go. So Baja Missions is a group that I am now a part of. Just to give you a little bit of background for myself, I never felt the calling to go into missions. And in fact, if you have gone on missions, and if you're in the chat or if you're in the comments on the YouTube feed, go ahead and put down where you've gone on missions. I'd love to find out. But otherwise, again, speaking for myself, I never felt the calling to go on missions. I'm not a big traveler. I really enjoy being at home, sleeping in my bed, watching my TV. So I never felt called or led to go on missions at all. Then, let's see, when I was in my 30s or so, I had a discipler, mentor, who was really big into missions. And he told me something that resonated with me. And he said, you really need to experience God in other countries because God is, you'll experience God differently. You won't have, I guess, the American culture to really shape your worship experience. So that's something that stuck with me. And then my wife, Linda, who is a pastor at Venice Free Methodist Church, got this opportunity to go to Baja. And how we got connected with Baja is really her story. It is really a God thing that involves really a stranger connecting us to the group. And we jumped in, brought our children, and went on our first missions trip back in, I believe that was 2016. And loved it. My wife joined the leadership team soon thereafter. And then about a year or two after that, I joined. So we are now part of the leadership for Baja Missions. And now I have the opportunity to share it with you. So here is Mexico. And if you see the 3 dots down there at the bottom, those are places where we find a lot of people migrate from. So we minister in this area called Maniadero, which is up here in the upper left, which is about 2.5 hours south of the border between Mexico and the US. So we get these people who migrate from these areas down below, and they follow the work. They're migrant farmers. Some of them are not even Spanish-speaking Mexican. They are Native Mexican who speak a language called Mixteco, similar to our Native Americans and the languages they speak. So if I go closer up here, this is a zoom in of that. You are here. So you see where it says Baja Bound, and the you are here, that's the beach house. That's where we stay. Those are our accommodations. And then the circle is the Maniadero area. That is the area where we serve. And if we zoom in even closer, this is pretty much what it looks like. It's agricultural, dirt roads. And as you will see, This is kind of typical of the housing that these families live in. There's no paved streets, there's no electricity, no running water. If you see off to the right, that is basically their bathroom, which is a hole in the ground. Most of them are tarped to protect against the elements, and that's about it. Here's an example of some of the families. You will see a lot of pallets, and as I mentioned, tarps to cover. Here's another family that we built for. And here's an example of what it looks like inside. Dirt floors, and just no, as I said, no electricity, so there's no refrigerator, there's no stoves, nothing like that. And here's a video that we took from our past preview trip, and I'll talk about that later, but it kind of shows you a look around of what a typical house looks like. So let's take a look here.
Let her take video so we could hear.
I am taking video right now.
And listen to the wind in there.
All right, so that's kind of an example of what the homes are like on the inside. So an article came out, this was last year, talked about how a lot of the issues that some of these developing countries are having have to do with gastrointestinal and respiratory infections and issues due to living on dirt floors. And in Menadero, we have a data point that 1.7%, so 17 out of every 1,000 children under the age of 4 will die due to issues from sleeping on a dirt floor. To put it in a little bit of perspective, I just checked real quick what our COVID numbers are. Currently, well, last I checked, we're at 1.5% of national. So there are actually more children in this Menadero community who pass away from lung and digestive issues than nationally we have with COVID. So as a response to that, there's a church in Redondo Beach called Journey South Bay, and they sent a team down in 2008 as a ministry for Journey South Bay, and they built 2 houses to try and get these children off of dirt floors. Since 2008, Baja Missions has developed and progressed in terms of really being more of a full-fledged organization and ministry unto itself. So now, in October, what we do is we go down and what we call the visioning trip. We will go and meet 6, 7, 8 families, listen to their stories and see their situations, and then we will rank them in terms of need and their situation, number of children, etc. And we have an opportunity to pray for them, because we don't want to be a group that just comes in, builds a house, and says, thank you, goodbye. We want to actually integrate with them on a relational level. We want to share Jesus with them. So as we rank them, depending on the size of our build team and the size of how much funding we're able to raise, we're able to start building them a home. And out there, again, no electricity. We do bring out some gas generators, but for the most part, it's just going to be hand tools. and we will start building them a home. And as you see there, it's just a concrete slab. We will play with the children. This is a really big thing. It's one of our pillars is that we are not just coming to build the house. We want to create relationships. Part of that, a lot of that has to do with the children. And something that we've been a proponent of is if you come on this trip and you don't pick up a hammer at all, but you meet with the families, you meet with the children, you are doing what you're supposed to do. Some of us, like myself, are not very good with little kids. So I build, but we need people who integrate with the families and play with the children. We do a VBS there as well. So we will have 20 or 30 kids playing games and learning about Jesus. So eventually the house gets built. It's only 16 by 24 feet, I believe. So roughly 380 square feet. So this entire house, which is just 2 bedrooms with a lofted space and a little living area, there's no kitchen, no bathrooms, no plumbing. We wire it just for the moment when electricity does get up there. But basically, yeah, 380 square feet or so. It's about the size of most American master bedrooms. Once the home is done, then we have an opportunity to dedicate the home. This is really a great experience. We get to pray for the family, pray for the home, and really we want just a moment to be able to really give the family, well, actually during the time of dedication, we share. We actually share with them how the experience has been from us. And then we give the opportunity for the homeowner to be able to share from their side as well. I'll talk about more on that later. So back in 2019, we had built by that point over 45 homes. And 2019 was a big year. That was obviously the year before the pandemic. We sent a team of about 85 people. And you will see people from little children. This year in particular, we had a 7-year-old and a few 10-year-olds, all the way up to, we have a few 60-year-olds who come on the build. So all ages, all sizes, all skill levels. Baja Bound. Okay, so I talked about Baja Missions, which is separate than Baja Bound. Baja Bound is the sending organization, and they will take any group, right? So they're a Christian organization, so obviously it fits that churches and Christian organizations, fellowships will connect with Baja Bound, and then Baja Bound takes care of everything, all logistics, all materials, tools. They have interpreters. They will take care of your housing, food, everything. They just need willing people. So that's the difference. We are partners with Baja Bound. Okay, so we have Baja Missions, which is the group that I'm a part of, and we partner with Baja Bound, and we depend on them to be our boots on the ground and take care of everything. And we just provide the people and the funding. So in the 13 years that Baja Bound has been in existence, they've built over 300 homes. As I said, mostly Christian organizations, but not necessarily. I've been down there a few times independently from our builds, and there have been groups from, there was one woman who brought, she was a like a VP of finance or something, and she brought her entire accounting department, and they did it as a team building activity. Or another time there was a grandmother from Arizona who for her birthday wanted to build a home and bless a family. So she had an entire family, her children, her grandchildren, some extended family and friends came out and they built a home. So any groups out there, you can connect with Baja Bound and you can do a build. This is the leadership team for Baja Bound. So a few people I want to point out. So on the left with the baseball cap and the glasses there, that is Ernesto Astorga. So he is the director of Baja Missions. And he is also on the board for Baja Bound. Because of that, he is able to give really quick feedback to Baja Bound in terms of places where maybe we can tweak this or improve that. And we're able to make quick changes. And then on the far right is his wife, Marilyn, who is also part of the Baja Missions leadership. The other person I want to point out is up top, pointing at the camera. That is John Rose. John Rose is the one who had the vision for Baja Bound. It started out as a ministry of his church. He was a pastor at a church in Chula Vista, which is just south of San Diego, just north of the border. As a pastor of this church, he had the vision to start Baja Bound. And then a few years ago, he stepped down from being a pastor and now runs Baja Bound full time. If you go to the Baja Bound house, you will see this, which is a kind of a pictorial overview of what your week will be like. Just as you can see there, you'll be building houses. For social services, they have a community center. You can also connect with, we went to a migrant camp, which was a tremendous experience to be able to feed and clothe some of these families there. Tacos and food, we get fed very, very well. It's probably one of the few mission trips that you may actually gain weight because they feed you so well. And then finally, as mentioned before, the house dedication. All right, so this is the logo for Baja Education Initiative. So Baja Bound, after building homes for a few years, found out that some of the children of the families that they were building for were eventually requesting homes to be built for them. One of the visions for Baja Bound was to break the cycle of poverty, and they found out providing a home was not enough. So they started the Baja Education Initiative. And here they're able to identify certain children who are interested in learning, are high achievers, they just don't have the means. Now, in Mexico, even though it's public education, there's still a cost. You still have to pay for uniforms, obviously the supplies, but it is not truly free. So as such, Baja Education Initiative, or BEI, offers scholarships. Now, this is roughly the cost of each type of school. And as you see, there's a jump between elementary and middle. Now, $50 for us, especially those of you in the Bay Area, if you work in tech, you make $50 probably making your coffee. But $50 for a migrant farmer, as you'll find out later on, is a tremendous amount. To be able to save that is almost unfathomable to them. Also, at the middle school level, most children are now big and strong enough that they can actually go out and work the fields and make an income for the family. So most parents will, at that point, make the decision that their children will not be going to school anymore, but will be working in the farm. And at that point, you obviously increase the risks tremendously of continuing the cycle of poverty. So BEI, or Baja Education, comes in and says, we will scholarship your kids. So part of that is providing backpacks and supplies. This is a huge one. A few years ago, they started an education center. And obviously with the pandemic, everything went online. Well, how are you supposed to do school online when you don't have electricity? You definitely don't have a computer. Some of the new families will now have a phone, but if you have 2, 3, 4, 6, 7 kids, how do you then have them do online school with one phone? Okay, so we offer this opportunity for them to be able to do their schooling. Some of these ladies may actually be moms learning how to also be on the internet. Again, all new for them. Part of being a BEI scholarship recipient at the high school and the college level is you are required to mentor the younger and upcoming generation. This is huge. This system is a game changer also, because these children will be under tremendous challenge in their classrooms. They will be competing against children who may have more advantage than they do. And they will get discouraged. And as such, they can now have a mentor who can then say, I did it, this is what I did, you can do it too. Okay, so that type of support is available to these kids who go through the scholarship program. And then obviously, eventually we want them to graduate, but obviously that is on them. They need to do the work. We just help them out. Also, something that Baja Education does is give them exposure to higher education. Most of them don't even know what college is. They don't even know it exists just a few miles up the road. So they do a tour of the local college, and these are some photos of that. Now, this was a striking image. Maybe those of you who have access to the chat or comments on the live YouTube feed, why don't you comment? Like, what do you think is going on here? Why do you think these young ladies have this reaction? What is going on? My facetious side thought, okay, maybe somebody farted or passed gas in this place. But no, they are having this reaction because this is their first time being in an elevator. Okay, so these girls who are in high school have never been in an elevator before, and this is their reaction. Okay, so you think about where they grew up in and what that situation is like. Anytime there is a second story, it's always staircase. So this is their first experience being in an elevator. This is one of the BEI recipients, Monica. She's on the left. This is from her journal. Now, if you can read through this really quick, she basically goes through her workday. And she says that she has to work the fields and she has to put bunches of flowers together. And for 100 bunches, she earns 20 pesos. Last time I checked, the conversion rate is about 96 cents per 20 pesos. So we'll say $1. Okay, so she gets about $1 for 100. She needs to cut 400 bunches a day to help her parents. So that's about $4 a day. So remember, when we talked about the jump from elementary to middle school being $50, when you make $4 a day, you can, and then you have to pay for food and whatever necessities you have. $50 is a tremendous amount. Here's a photo of what her hands look like after a day of working. So what Baja Missions does, we fundraise, we will build the homes for the families, and then we set aside a certain amount to be able to support the Baja Education Initiative. And you can see here the number of scholarships and which level of school we support. Now, you're probably wondering, well, do you just give the money and that's it? Does it just go into a black hole? And no, this is actually the best part. This is the part that I absolutely love, because you meet, when you go to Baja and you do these builds with Baja Bound, you get the opportunity to meet people like Dr. Carla. Now, Dr. Carla was one of the first scholarship recipients. She was identified early as being a high achiever. She got excellent grades, but like many of those children, she was sitting on a dirt floor doing her homework by candlelight. Baja Education came in and said, we would like to scholarship your child. She obviously took it and did amazing things. She graduated from high school, college, medical school. She did some of her training in the United States and then has returned back into the Meneadero community, where she helps run a clinic as part of a ministry. An amazing woman. I got to meet her the first year we went on our Baja mission. An incredibly humble woman. And she obviously kind of remains like the pinnacle of what the Baha'i Education Initiative does. This is Jahir. That's him in the upper left, and I put an arrow in these other photos. Okay, so this is him getting into college. And then there's a t-shirt there where we want to break the cycle of poverty through education. So Jahir now is part of the Baja Bound build team and part of the leadership team. And then he was actually one of the project managers on one of our builds this past week when I was just down there. Now, if the other guys seem familiar, the guys who flank him, that's because if we go back to the picture that I showed earlier, they're also part of the Baja Bound leadership. They were also scholarshiped and are now part of Baja Bound leadership. The guy on the far right, that is Pancho or Francisco, he was also a scholarship recipient, and now he is an entrepreneur. He runs a coffee shop in Ensenada. This is Juanita. That is her as a little child on the left, and this is in 2019 on the right with her siblings. So Juanita came in 2019 and shared with us. At this point, she was still in high school. And she told the story of when she was a child, she wanted to go to school, but her dad said, we can't afford to send you to school. So she negotiated with her father and got him to agree, okay, if you want to go to school, you still need to take care of your younger two siblings because mom and dad need to go work the fields to make money for the family to feed us. So that's what she did. She got up early in the morning. She would pack diapers, baby formula. She would take both of her kids to school, ride the bus. Her teachers knew her situation. So it was not unheard of for a teacher to be holding the younger daughter while teaching. While the kids were playing, Juanita was changing diapers and feeding a bottle to her younger siblings. And that's what she did. So again, you hear these amazing, amazing stories. Now, one of the things about Juanita is she is one of those migrants from that Mixteco language. So she is bilingual in both Spanish and Mixteco. Because of that, Baja Bound asks her or has her come in and she serves as a translator. So what's happening here is we are praying for a family who only speaks Mixteco. So you're going to hear Rory there in the red baseball cap. She's going to be praying in English. It's going to be translated by Jeanette, who will be translating from from English to Spanish. Then Juanita will translate from Spanish to Mixteco. So I'm not going to play this whole thing, but you'll just kind of get a sense of what it sounds like.
Okay, orar.
And this family and this opportunity to meet them.
Y gracias por esta familia, por la oportunidad de conocerlos.
And for Juanita for giving us the gift of being able to talk to them.
Y gracias por la vida de Juanita y por la oportunidad de poder hablar con ellos.
I pray that you watch over them as they wait for their home.
Yo oro para que tú los protejas, Señor, mientras ellos esperan por su casa.
And that you provide a home soon with warmth and a roof and protection for their family.
Que tú puedas proveer una casa segura y protección sobre su familia, Señor.
And I just pray for good health for all of them and keeping them safe.
Y oro por buena salud para todos, Señor, y para que tú los cuides.
In Jesus' name, amen.
En el nombre de Jesús. Amén.
All right, so you get a sense a little bit of what Mixteco sounds like, and I was smiling throughout because I just thought it's so amazing to be able to see that transition from English to Spanish to Mixteco. Okay, and then this is really exciting for us, for me. So directly to my left, the two arrows, we have Daniel, and we call her Caro or Carolina. So Caro has been a part of, well, she's been a Baja Education Scholarship recipient for a while. We met her back when we first started. She was still probably at that point, late high school, early college. Just a delightful young lady. And she's been consistent in her faith and her authenticity. Back in 2019, her friend, Danny, shows up. And Danny gives a message. During our evenings, we have teaching time, we have worship time, we have teachings. And Danny was one of the speakers one night. And Caro was also spoke and translated a little bit. And Danny spoke. And I and a bunch of others felt like, wow, he is a gifted teacher and speaker. He speaks the truth from the Bible, and we were excited. Like, hey, I think we have a future pastor here. And it turns out, yes, that's where he felt led. So earlier, well, actually, no, late last year, because we're in 2022 now, they actually launched a new church, which they call Comunidad Encuentro. Don't ask me to pronounce that correctly, but basically translated, it is community experience. And then this past week, we were able to go on their, go and visit and experience their Wednesday night worship service. And my wife, Linda, was actually the speaker. So she was introduced as being the first international speaker at their church. What's exciting, though, is that Danny and Caro being, they're younger, right? And to launch a church in that community was a tremendous challenge for them, and they were scared. What was just awesome to see was their community rallied around them. They wanted them to succeed. And so they supported them financially. They supported them showing up and being a part of this new community that they're building out. So you see Caro there. She plays kind of the chairperson. And man, she is gifted. You could tell she's so passionate about that new church and loves it. And then, as you see there, Pastor Daniel, bringing the word of God, and he is definitely a gifted speaker. So we're really excited about that, and Baja Missions is trying to figure out how are we going to support them. So we have a few people we've connected with, some donors who are now supporting them financially directly. Ernesto and Marilyn and some other people have gone down there and provided chairs and audio equipment. We've connected with a few churches who maybe they've upgraded certain equipment, so now they have something that's old that would work perfectly well for them. So we're trying to support them as best as we can, and we're praying for them, and we want them to succeed. And I will get back to them towards the end of this as well. So please remember Pastor Danny and Caro. All right, so we're getting towards the end here. Let me show you a quick video. This is like our sizzle reel, for lack of a better term.
Solo Él rompe su amor, tomaste mi lugar, cargaste tú mi cruz, tu vida diste ahí, y ahora libre soy. Oh, Jesús, te adoro por lo que hiciste en mí. Pusiste en orden todo el caos, nos adoptaste como tus hijos, el Rey de Gloria, el Rey de Gloria, el que gobierna con su justicia y resplandece con su belleza, el Rey de Gloria, el Rey de majestad. Oh, gracia sublime es, perfecto es tu amor, tomaste mi lugar, cargaste tú mi cruz, tu vida diste ahí, y ahora libre soy. Oh, Jesús, te adoro por lo que hiciste en mí. Digno es el Cordero de Dios, digno es el Rey que la muerte venció, digno es el Cordero de Dios, digno es el Rey que la muerte venció, digno es el Cordero de Dios, digno es el Rey que la muerte venció, digno es el Cordero de Dios, digno, 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 gracia sublime es, perfecto es su amor, tomaste mi lugar, cargaste tú mi cruz, tu vida diste ahí, y ahora libre soy. Oh, Jesús, te adoro por lo que hiciste en mí. Oh, por lo que hiciste en mí.
All right, so here are some frequently asked questions. Let's go over these real quick. Who can go? Anyone can go. Honestly, even if you are not part of the church, are not a believer, we don't care. Now, we are unabashed in terms of what we're doing, why we're doing it. We are God-based, biblically based, and we're doing it because we want to share Jesus. But it doesn't matter. If you want to come, we'll take anybody who's willing to serve. Next question, is it safe? I have not had a problem. As I said, safety is our top priority. We have security protocols, we have medical professionals, we have contingency plans. I took my family, my daughter at the time was maybe 11, 12, and we had no qualms about her safety at all. And as mentioned, we've had children as young as 7 go. What are the requirements to go? This is really it. We have an online application. Minors have to have their parents fill out a questionnaire. $100 deposit per person, right? We want to make sure you have some skin in the game. a support letter with a list of 30 supporters. Okay, that doesn't mean that they're all going to support you, but we want to know just, who are you going to let know that you're going to go? Valid passport. This is important if you want to come back. We can get you down there, but if you want to come back, you need a passport. And then we want you at all the team meetings. Well, here's a big question. What if I don't have any construction experience? And as mentioned before, Baja Bound provides everything. They provide training, tools, materials. And as I mentioned also for Baja Missions, our view is a little different. We consider building secondary. We want you to meet with the families and play with the kids. We just ask you to be flexible, especially because we go during the wintertime. We are one of the few groups that will go during this time of year. Weather is always a wild card. We saw it this past week. Christmas Day, we were looking at rain every single day. And it did rain every single day. But there was only maybe 10 minutes when we literally could not build. God really changed the weather pattern. We saw rain all around us, but during the build site, the only time it rained there was overnight. So we were able to build 4 houses in 3 days. It was pretty amazing. I'll follow up to that. If you don't have any construction experience, that's okay. But honestly, the Bible's pretty clear in terms of what God is commanding to us. And I just put an example here that we really need to go out and we need to bring Jesus and his message of salvation to everywhere. And one of the beauties of Baja is, at least for those of us in Los Angeles, 5.5 hour drive, we're there, right? It is that fast. But geography obviously shouldn't make a huge difference either, and I'll talk about that later. And also for this verse in Matthew, like we want to serve others, even the least of these, right? And when you serve them, you're serving him also. Fundraising, what does that look like? And what does it go towards? Fundraising is as a team, because we don't expect a 7-year-old to raise as much as a 30-year-old engineer working at Google or any tech company. Okay, so we raise it as a team. Typically, we used to ask for $1,000 per person. That covers transportation, insurance, building materials, everything. We had to raise it to $1,500 because of inflation and just the price of lumber and other materials went up that high. So we'll say between $1,000 and $1,500 per person. As mentioned earlier, Baja Missions is now a full nonprofit, which means any donations are fully tax deductible. And those last two are how you can donate to Baja Missions, either by check or online. These are some of the things that your fundraising goes towards. Obviously, building materials, the VBS program that we put on, lodging and food for those who go, van rentals, gas, insurance. That is a huge cost for us. But we have a company where they provide all of that. Tierra Firma ministry, that is what we did for the migrant camp. So we went there, we packed food, we packed some, collected some used clothing and passed it out there. The BEI scholarships, I've talked about that before, and then t-shirts for the team. Do you need to know Spanish? No, I don't speak Spanish at all. In fact, the funny story is when I first went, so for me, my mom raised me she was Japanese speaking. She sent me to Japanese school. So my flip switch language is to go to Japanese. So when I was down there and I'm building and I'm having somebody speak to me in Spanish, my auto switch went to Japanese, which obviously doesn't help us. It didn't help me. But no, to answer your question, you do not need to know Spanish. Baja Bound provides all translation and translators. The project managers are all bilingual, at least to a functioning degree. What does the training schedule look like? Here's an example. This was last year's training schedule. So August, September, we will have a kickoff to introduce Baja Missions. And this is what we're doing, especially for newcomers. And then by October 1st, the team is established. You need to turn in all of your application information, your deposit, etc. And then every month we will have a meeting and we'll have a dedicated training for that. What if I'm not in Los Angeles? Now, I understand most of you are probably in the Bay Area, and that's okay, because as you can see, we've had members from all over the US. So North Carolina, Boston, Chicago, Colorado, and San Jose. These people took meetings online, and then they joined us. I think everybody joined us in Los Angeles and left with us on December 27th. But if you want to fly into San Diego or even Tijuana, we could probably arrange pickup there as well. But to answer this question, you do not need to be in Los Angeles in order to join us on the trip. Here's an example of the prayer letter or the support letter that we mentioned earlier. It's got some information, especially on the second page, which you may find interesting. I can share this deck out later as well, so you can look at it later. Here's some pictures of me, because I didn't find any other pictures of me actually working. So you can see that I actually did things. So the picture on the right is me muddied. So you will expect to get muddy. You will expect to get dirty down there. As I mentioned, the streets not paved, it's all dirt. So when it rains and we go during the wintertime, it's going to rain and it gets muddy a lot. So hard to be expected. All right, in closing, yes, we do provide housing, and housing is important. As mentioned before, children under the age of 4, their highest incidence of death is infections from living on that dirt floor. So we want to provide them a house, a roof, outside, so protected from the rain and the elements, a place where they can feel secure. So this is the first time some of these parents have ever had a front door to lock up their home and to secure their families. So we provide that, but here's the thing, that house is not going to last forever. It's just not. It'll last several years. In fact, most of us have probably done something on our homes to refurbish them, right? House is not going to last forever. Through the Baja Education Initiative, we provide an education, hopefully a better life. But again, you provide somebody with financial means. I'm sure we all know people who have all the finances, all the money in the world, but they are still lost, right? They're still not complete. We also meet with the families and meet with the kids. And this is great. Again, this is one of our pillars. We believe in this. It actually comes before building. But if we think of our own families, how many generations do we actually remember, right? Most of us will know our parents. Some of us will know our grandparents. How many of us know our great-grandparents? By that time, we're going to be forgotten. I know nobody will remember or care who I am within 2 or 3 generations. Okay, so important, but again, not eternal or forever. So what we want to do is we want to share Jesus with them. And this picture kind of represents, as best as we can, just sharing Jesus to this community. And there's 2 facets to this that really resonate with me. Number one, for those of us who have either done like a senior convalescent home ministry, or if you've had to take care of seniors, there's a certain, right, you may not remember your own children or your spouse. You may not know what day it is. But for some of these people, if they have loved Jesus their entire lives, they have put Jesus as their number one, like you meet these people, and again, they won't remember. Sometimes their own children or what have you, but they will know and remember Jesus. You sing Amazing Grace or Greatest Thy Faithfulness or any hymn, and they are in the presence of God. And you know without a doubt that Jesus is their number one. And that's what we want to provide these families, is that opportunity to know who Jesus is and make Jesus their number one. Okay. So when the house is no longer there, when none of these people remember what they did professionally, they don't remember their children or their spouses or their friends, but they remember who Jesus is. Number two, and this picture was just from this past week. And this was one of my favorite moments for this past week. Okay, so this is the family is the Camachos. And the Camachos, for me, when I met them, I put them as my number one priority. I think I was the only Baja Missions leadership member who had them number one, because I just saw this tremendous potential in them. But to be completely honest and transparent, I wasn't 100% sure, because their situation was so different than others. They didn't have tremendous need per se. Like if you went to the Camacho's house, it was well kept. He had already put or was putting 3 children through college. So he had means. He was tremendously innovative. But there was something about him, I felt like return on investment here would be money well worth spent, time well worth spent. So we built this house for him, and he was tremendously grateful. He was brought to tears. And if you can see in the parentheses, I've highlighted some of his children. He's got 7 kids, okay? His single dad, 7 kids. And then I also highlighted Pastor Daniel and Cotto, who I referred to before. In this next picture, I just got, the kids ran away. They ran off and played. So I've got some of the older children. And that's Ricardo Camacho, the father, and then Cotto and Daniel. So when Dad was sharing during the dedication, he said how obviously the house was an answered prayer. But he had talked to Pastor Daniel earlier in the week, and they were saying how there were so many kids in that neighborhood. We ran VBS adjacent to his house. There were 30 kids running around playing games, and he just felt like he wanted to be a part of that. He had already made a commitment. I'm going to go to your church. But he was wondering what could they do there. And Pastor Daniel and Cotto said, well, let's do a VBS or a church here for the children. So then what Pastor Daniel had us do, instead of the normal dedication where we just stretch out our hand, he literally had us put our hands on this house. And as we prayed for this house, I finally understood this was not just a house. This was going to be a community center, right? It's going to be a place where 30 plus kids are going to learn who Jesus is. Just think of the tremendous impact of that. These kids will go back to their homes and share about what they've learned. So I thought that was awesome. Like, this is just so much more than just building a house. So those are the 2 things. Two things that at least I hold near and dear to myself. So in closing, this is your call to action, Peninsula Hope Church. I pray in 2022, you will consider joining the 2022 Baja Missions team. Now, you may say, I gave you frequently asked questions. You may say, I don't know construction. I'm not in the Los Angeles area. You may think of all these excuses. That's honestly between you and God. You may think physically you're not able, and maybe you're not. That is certainly a possibility. We always need supporters and senders as well. So I pray you will consider being a part of the 2022 Baja Missions team one way or the other. There's my contact information below. On the left, you have my email, some of my social media handles. On the right, you have the Baja Missions team, their social media, Facebook, Instagram, and our website. And that's it. That is Baja Missions. Thank you, Peninsula Hope Church, for letting me share. Just something I'm truly passionate about and I love. If you have any questions, go ahead and put it in the chat. Put it in your YouTube comment feed. I don't know if maybe we'll have some time afterwards, but it looks like we're going to get back to service back in Redwood City. So thank you again. God bless you. Have a great 2022 and Happy New Year to everybody.
This day. Thank you for the message that Eric brought about missions in Baja. Lord, I ask that you would speak to us, speak to our hearts and our minds on what it is that we can do, not for ourselves, Lord, but for you and your glory. Again, we give you thanks and praise in Jesus' name. Amen. Thank you. You are dismissed.